Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Comedy Pinata, coming to you from the iconic, historic Zanies in Nashville, Tennessee, one of the best comedy clubs in the country. And I am joined, let's just jump right into this.
Finally, something I agree with you on, Steve.
Yes, that is true. I'm joined here with a great panel today, an esteemed, educated opinion. This is Brian Dorfman. He is the owner of Zanies Nashville. Thank you, Brian, for joining us today. Appreciate it.
Pleasure, Steve.
Yeah. Well, I'm looking forward to hearing your pontifications and opinions on these clips because normally it's comedians, but you're a club owner. You've seen everybody, and I wonder if you are just as jaded as we are.
Please lower the expectations, but yes, definitely jaded.
And of course, to my left, just one of the great guys I met since I moved here, but one of the first CDs I bought at Digital Days, a CD store. I worked in Akron, Ohio, and I listened to your CD all the time. Better Than Ezra, Kevin Griffin. Thank you for being here today.
I'm giddy to be here, and I can't wait to pontificate. I just love how you pulled that archaic word,
there we go.
palava.
Yeah, I think it's my father always had a dense, deep vocabulary, and every now and then some of those words would trickle out. And
I'm a huge fan of antiquated terms, so I'll pep my conversation.
We definitely have some antiquated racist terms.
That's right. Well, speaking of you being here, Norm Macdonald had passed recently, and we have one of the I think one of his iconic jokes. It's one of those jokes, probably top three things that you always saw circulate. So I just want to play this here real quick and get your thoughts on it, because comics were passing around Norm Macdonald bits in the passing, but let's check this out real quick here.
And in music news, #1 on the college charts this summer was Better Than Ezra. And at #2, Ezra.
All right. Can I...
And in music news.
Thank you, David. Can I get your opinions when it first happened, and then I'm sure in the passing you just got bombarded, correct? I would assume as much.
When it came out, it was at the height of Better Than Ezra's popularity. It was the summer of '95,
yeah.
And we were the #1 for 9 weeks. Good was #1 at college radio and top 40. It was kind of a perfect storm to have Norm Macdonald feature you in a bit, and it was such an honor then because we were massive fans.
Right.
But just watching it again, and I've seen it a lot since he passed away. That's a testament to his delivery, just that deadpan look that made you just savor it in your mouth. What he just said, and just looking at you, and so some comedians, some actors like Will Ferrell have a look that just tickles you.
Sure.
Norm Macdonald did that. So when it came out, it was amazing. Over the years, people have always said, man, you probably have never seen this, but a long time ago, Norm Macdonald, I'm like, I've seen it. And then it was amazing, that was something people latched on to as one of his best bits, or one of the little jokes. And then when we reposted it, just, that post, it on Twitter, and I, as a rule, I kind of stay off Twitter, and certainly
Sure.
Better Than Ezra doesn't have a big presence, maybe 10,000 followers. It went viral. There's over 1 million, of views and reshares on Twitter and stuff. So there was just so much love for that bit,
yeah,
and obviously for Norm Macdonald, and and so it was nice for it to come back, and then I read all the comments. I was waiting for the snarky ones, like God bless Norm Macdonald, whatever the hell happened to Better Than Ezra. God, but I don't miss Better Than Ezra. Rest in peace, Better Than Ezra. Long live Norm Macdonald. I mean, but it was just love,
Right.
and
That's great.
so thank you to Norm Macdonald up in heaven or wherever he may be, for saying that, because it was great. Selfishly, it was great for the band in '95 and in 2021.
Unbelievable. And any thoughts on Norm Macdonald from you?
Yeah, I mean, I thought Norm, with most, is bigger in death than he was in life. I mean,
Yeah.
the movies. But he played her a few times, and to your point on that clip,
Mm-hmm.
right? We talk about this a lot, right? The words are the words, but the delivery is the delivery, right?
Yeah.
So he's got a
your
unique.
point, yeah.
He had a unique style, and I think that's that's always a sign of a great, right? That people follow that part of it. And Norm was one of those guys to the to us, he would kill in the back of the room.
Yeah, of
Right?
course,
But to
yeah.
the average crowd member, they came because they knew him as a star. Not everybody knew him as a stand-up, and his stand-up was not for the masses. That joke was actually such a simple joke. That's for the masses.
Right, yeah.
His stand-up was not for the masses.
Yeah, I forget whose roast it was. I think it might have been Charlie Sheen, where he went up and he was just doing horrible jokes.
Yes.
Horrible. I mean, he's bombing on comedies, and it came out during the whole thing. But you see the tried and true comics hunched over, dying laughing,
Dying.
knowing that they're part of the bit of like, oh, he's purposely just fucking doing horrible jokes. But it was his delivery. He never got shaken. He committed to it, and he didn't feel the need to like end on. It was just like, no, that's the last joke. All right, thank you guys.
And he never
that was
pandered.
it.
And he never
Never gave
pandered
a
at
shit.
all.
There was a
Never
really
met
No.
Conan O'Brien on his podcast. Conan
Yeah.
O'Brien Needs a Friend. Is that verboten to say another podcast on this podcast? Is that okay?
Well,
Am
no
I
one's
breaching
gonna-
some decorum?
It's not like
McDonald's-
you're helping
am I
Conan
breaching?
at all.
McDonald's doesn't
we
like
need
to
to
shit on
help?
Burger King, but here we go. We're
So
doing
here
that.
we go. Thank you. And everyone's switched now to.
Yeah.
But on Conan O'Brien Needs a Friend, he got Andy Richter, and I think one of the producers from Saturday Night Live. Actually, sorry, from the Conan O'Brien show. They spent an hour and a half dissecting what it was. They wanted to get to the essence of what Norm Macdonald, what made him unique. And Andy
Right.
Richter kind of summed it up just like he didn't give a damn. He
Yeah.
just didn't care if you laughed or not. At least that's how he came off. And that's what made him so compelling. And, like you said, he would just do, like the moth joke.
Yeah.
The famous, and if
Yeah.
you don't know the famous moth joke, that the worst thing you can do is to tell a long story on a TV talk show. That's exactly what he did. He took 6 minutes to tell this joke that was really a 20-second joke, and it's only if you haven't seen the moth joke, you've got to see it.
Yeah.
But that was just his thing, and that's what made him special.
Yeah, it was, and it's a purely unique delivery and a unique style and a unique humor. And I think that's, and we're saying that's truly what separates the greats. is
And a
that you
great
could-
guy on top of it. Super sweet guy.
I heard he was a sweetheart. of a
Super sweet guy. He would follow young comics. I remember when he followed me, I was like, "What the fuck? Like Norm Macdonald? What?"
Wow.
And then you'd see him at the Comedy Store and just gracious, and then you find out, oh, he doesn't have a driver's license. He's like, "There's the eccentric. There it is." Yeah.
And conversely, you compare like Dennis Miller, who comes off as the smartest guy in the room.
Mm-hmm.
It's harder for a guy like, when you look at Norm, comes off as an idiot and was the smartest guy in the room. That's the sign of really intelligent
Yeah.
humor. I don't know Dennis, but it's easier to have a scripted. I can come up with every reference I want if
Sure,
I'm
yeah.
actually making the reference.
Yeah.
Norm understood anything. He guy was a genius. You couldn't get a reference by him.
Yeah.
And I think it's really harder to be that deadpan and play the buffoon when you know you're the smartest guy in the room and play that.
It's kind of like being
contrasting
Clark
styles.
Kent, knowing you're Superman.
Yeah.
But you don't want to bust it out. And, I'm Super. But as opposed to Dennis Miller and
the best Burt Reynolds impression.
Oh my
ever.
God.
Oh, that was
my
great.
God.
Yeah.
Turd Ferguson.
Absolutely.
It's so great. All right, well, let's get to this, guys. We got clip number one. Again, I've never seen these before. Our producer, look at him, Adrian Culp here. Very nice to see you,
The
Adrian.
nerve center over there.
All right, here we go. Here we go.
Brian Regan.
Brian Regan.
Love him.
Brian Regan, love him. Any thoughts on Brian Regan before you jump into this? Any thoughts on him?
I do have a theory on Brian, but actually he's top 5 funniest I've ever seen. When I got in the business, it was 92. So we opened up October 92, Vernon Hills, and he played there December of 92, and it's one of the comedy shows that sticks in my mind more than anything. One, he's a great guy, but I think my theory on Brian is live, he's the greatest person you can ever see.
Yeah.
And I think he gets so animated that it kind of turns you off a little bit on TV because you put him into a box.
Right.
Right? Now when you have all the other stage in front of you, it's the great. I mean, he's one of the greats.
For sure.
Top 10 of all times. I think unquestionably. Style, funny, humor, comic,
Oh, yeah.
audience comic. I mean, everyone. There's very few people that are on both sides of that. And Brian's fantastic. But he's just, the joke is sometimes it's the same line over and over. The animation gets there.
Yeah.
When it's on stage, it can get lost.
Sure.
When it's reduced to a TV screen, I don't think it comes off the same way as it does live.
That's interesting you bring that up, because I've seen late night talk show sets of his where it's kind of like hit or miss.
Yeah.
But anytime you go see the guy live, it is like a 12 out of 10. It's
Right.
unbelievable.
Absolutely. Yeah,
So kind of constricting it to a television, it loses that visceral when you feel his energy. In the
No, I
room.
think the animation is just so much. It's this, and all you see is the
I got
words.
you.
You see
I
the
got you.
facial. All that. It's always
Right.
a tick, and it's a three-peat over and over again, and it becomes too much for the screen.
Too much for the screen.
Yeah.
It overloads the screen.
Overloads the screen.
How about you? Have you seen Brian live ever? Or?
I haven't seen him live, but I've seen him a lot on YouTube. Because
Yeah.
my 22-year-old son is a big comedy fan.
Yeah.
And so he turned me on to Brian. I mean, I've known him for years.
He's one of the best. Well, let's check out Brian Regan here. Hopefully this is not coming to us from
Parents raised
Afghanistan.
some good kids. I didn't pursue a life of crime. One reason, I remember that expression when I was a kid. Crime does not pay. Crime does not pay? That's why we shouldn't do it? Do you do crime? Oh, well, I love crime. I love almost everything about crime. Crime is fantastic. You don't have to sell me on that side of the equation. The reason that I don't do crime, and I've crunched the numbers. It doesn't pay! Sure, if it paid, I'd be doing crime left and right. But crime doesn't pay, so that's why I don't do crime. Another crime motto, even more twisted. Don't do the crime if you can't do the time. Damn. I'm intrigued that the motto isn't don't do the crime, because that would be wrong.
I think he's an absolute genius.
It's just so ridiculous. It's so ridiculous. But I don't know what it is. It's just so simple and pure. It's clean.
Yeah.
And it's him. It's his delivery. He's so distinct. Nobody has delivery like him. And I think if you, another example, if you transcribe that, like, okay, is that funny? But it's him. He's the conduit, right?
Well, I would say if you look at it, comedy, one of the keys to comedy is relatability.
Yeah.
And the way he delivers it, he doesn't just say the joke.
Mm-hmm.
He explains everything around the joke.
Yes.
So by the time you get it, you understand exactly what he's saying in such a simple form.
Sure.
It's relatable, the silliness comes out, and he explains the ridiculousness of the situation in almost everything, right? I mean,
Yeah.
go back to all of his bits, right?
Yeah.
About, the classics, the baseball bit, Little League, right?
Right.
Swing,
Keep around the ball
go,
yeah.
Sue or Sue, right?
Yeah.
But he explains everything in a way that he makes it so outlandish
So
and
relatable.
ridiculous and relatable.
Yeah.
Everyone goes through her, and just the animation, the inflection, the
Yeah.
delivery point.
Yeah.
I mean, you're around Brian Regan for a week, and you start talking like Brian Regan.
Yeah.
I mean, he's just everything about him. You just eat up. He's truly the best.
He's great with exposing some of the absurdities of the things that we don't question.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
don't do the crime if you can't do the time. Crime doesn't pay. As opposed to, don't do crime because it's wrong. Yeah. And so, and he's just so deftly, you can just see how brilliant he is.
Yeah.
And that, when comedians, the best comedians do that, make us go, why the fuck have we not questioned this saying that we say all the time?
Yeah.
And he's
Everything.
great at just making you laugh and going, oh my God, you're right.
I'll tell you a funny story. So my son, my youngest Carson, he got stepped on by a skate. And he's
ice skate.
An ice
Not a
skate.
roller skate.
Not a roller skate.
Or an inline skate.
And I don't know, he took, 8-10 stitches in his ankle.
Not a figure skate? No, just to go off.
Hey,
And he's always been a fan of comedy. So
Right.
Carson at the time might be 8 years old, and his brain's going way faster than his mouth. And so we go get stitches, and the nurse goes, "How do you rate your pain?" and that's a bit by Brian Regan.
Of course,
and
yeah.
Carson goes, "Oh, how do I rate my pain?" An enthusiastic 2 thumbs up. And now he starts quoting Brian Regan's
Yeah.
bit, and I don't know if you can say the word anymore, but I think the nurse thought he was retarded.
Right.
He starts
Yeah.
going off because it's
Disabled.
Yeah, exactly, mentally challenged, and
Mentally
he
challenged.
was, and he has all that kind of stuff. And so now Carson and I are crying.
Yeah.
She has no reference to what's
No
going
clue.
on out here, and
It's so funny.
he is just quoting the entire bit.
Is she laughing?
Oh, we are laughing.
Oh.
We are laughing hysterical.
Oh, that's great.
And she has no clue what we're laughing about.
Yeah.
And he's going on and on with this bit, and he's quoting a chapter. I mean, just the entire bit, and he's losing it. She's stumbling on the words. It
Right.
didn't matter to me. I was just laughing and watching him.
But a testament to him that this is a comic that I would bring my kids to go see.
Absolutely.
My 9-year-old and 6-year-old.
Yeah.
I go, we're going to go see a great show. And they would laugh just as hard as any Disney show that they see, maybe even harder, because he's clean. He just, I don't know, there's some people that just, they trickle through the
Because Disney's
sidewalk
a
and they
genius
get
in
down.
comedy.
Let me
That's
ask
right.
you,
Yeah.
you guys, you have Zanies, you're a working comedian. Is it harder? Is it harder to do clean comedy versus blue comedy? Do you call it blue? Is that what you call it? Or is it just that's what you do, and it just happens that he does clean comedy? Is it harder to do? Is one elevated more in the eyes of comics than the other?
I think it's certainly a decision. It's a
Right.
decision the comic makes. Very few make it, and I think like someone like Brian, Nate.
Well, I can speak for Nate.
Yeah.
Nate doesn't swear off stage. It's who he is.
Yeah.
Right. So I think part of it has to be, a true representation of who you are. If you're forcing
Yeah.
it clean or forcing it dirty on either side,
So
I
it's
think
just who you are.
I think
Yeah.
to a point it has
and
to be
that
there.
authenticity comes through in the jokes.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, but I will tell you, this guy, I love him, and up until a few years ago, we had always just, in passing, the last few years I've gotten to hang out with him, and I'm thinking, oh, okay, yeah, I'll get a drink with Brian Regan.
You'll have a few drinks with
Where's the
Brian
camera? Where's the camera? Don't go drink with Brian Regan. You think you can handle it. You think, oh, it's clean comic. You can't handle it. You can't handle the truth.
Can't hang.
Within,
Does he get his drink on?
Oh, within
Yeah, he doesn't-
within 10 minutes, I had done 3 shots and hadn't even had a cocktail yet. I was like, what are we doing? And we got the bar tab. For the first bar we went to, there were 56 shots.
So it was bar hopping with Brian Regan.
Bar hopping with Brian Regan. That would be
Wow.
a show. Oh, my God. So what do you give this 1 out of 10? Scale of 1 to 10, how would you grade this bit? And we're not judging the comic, we're judging the bit.
Everything. It's everything you want in comedy.
Yeah.
Animation. It's relatability. The punchlines. I mean, it doesn't get better. It's a well constructed bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's great. I mean, anything with Brian, he's one of my favorites. I give almost everything Brian a 10 out of 10.
So you go 10 out of 10?
I think
Okay.
I think he's great.
Yeah.
And it's his style. That's uniquely Brian.
Yes.
Right. It's not like you're ever going to get a political statement, so you can't say it's so
Right.
so you're judging Brian Regan. Obviously, it's a gray hair Brian Regan.
Yep.
And I've known Brian for almost 30 years, and that's as funny as any Brian Regan bit, and it's a new bit.
Agreed.
Yeah. So it's everything. I think Brian's Mount Rushmore of comedy.
Yeah. I would agree with that. How about you? What do you
I'm going
say?
to be the contrarian.
Ooh,
here. I'm going to be
okay.
the Simon Cowell of this
Yeah.
trio. Since it's the first clip, and I love Brian Regan, I love the joke, I'm going to give it a 7.
7 out of 10.
Yeah, because I
Okay.
don't want to just shoot my proverbial
Don't shoot your
load
wad, yeah.
on clip 1.
Very nice. Okay.
Now
Respectful.
I've set the bar though at excellence at 7, so the rest may be 6s and 5s
right,
and
that's right, yeah.
4s. I don't
got a
know,
high
but I'm
bar.
giving myself some wiggle room.
Can I just say one other Brian
You're like an
Regan
Asian
story?
parent here today. Okay. Yeah.
Brian Regan used to do 55 minutes of squeaky comedy like that, and then he had this bit he would close on, and it was about being in the classroom and like, hey, let's pick a sentence, and we're diagramming the sentence.
Right.
And he goes, and the person next to me is like, all right, teacher, like, go fuck yourself. I'm like, no, pick another one. And then they go out there, and the kid dissected the sentence perfectly.
Right.
And it was a standing ovation bit. Then he was like, why do I swear? I did 55 minutes of clear, and he just dropped a brilliant bit. I mean, it was brilliant and really well thought out. I mean, everything clean, clever. You're dissecting a sentence. I mean, everything. It was educated. It was everything you wanted.
there's cuss words in it.
He just had,
That's
and
fun.
he did 55 minutes completely clean. Is the last bit. He's like, why should I close on a
Has that
dirty
ever
bit?
aired anywhere?
I don't know.
Has
Wow,
he ever has he ever done any scripted television stuff?
I have not really. Well, he did Top 5 with Chris Rock. I saw him in that.
Right.
He did have deals.
He's had deals, and I know that he had his own show on Netflix for.
Right.
It's still on.
Yeah.
But I don't think they renewed it for a season 2. So I don't know. I know that it's something he wants to do.
Right.
He's passionate about it, but for some reason it just hasn't
hasn't
clicked
clicked, right.
yet. And I will say yet, because
Yeah.
I hope to God that he does
He's
get to see it.
amazing.
I'll give that. I'll split the difference. I'll go 8 out of 10 on that
All
one.
right.
It'd be 8.5.
All right.
I'll go 8.5. I'll go 8.5. You're
Now,
right.
It was a math
Who
joke.
am I to judge Brian Regan, of course, but yeah.
I mean, I know
Well,
we,
you-
bo-
well,
we
you
both
don't
went
want
to
Brian
state
to-
schools, but it's still 8.5.
That's right. Yeah, I went to state school.
when this podcast blows up, and it will, if
Oh,
it
yeah.
hasn't already, you don't want Brian to confront you in a dressing room in Philadelphia.
because
and
instead of
say
2 shots, I'll
out
get
of
8
10.
shots.
Exactly.
You piece of shit. Look what you
And
drove
that
me
hack, that has-been Kevin Griffin gave me a 7.
That's right.
Norm Macdonald was right.
to. Norm Macdonald was right. Okay. Here we go. Clip number 2. Let's see who we got here. Ooh, the Prince of Darkness.
Anthony Jeselnik.
Anthony Jeselnik, another Pittsburgh boy. Any thoughts on Jeselnik?
Actually, I think it's way harder to come off likable and be that dark and dirty.
Right.
It has to be. I think when you're dark and dirty, it has to be that more well written.
Right.
To come off as a joke, and I think Anthony does I think Anthony and Tosh do it as good as anybody in
Yeah.
that darkness and coming off as a likable and a well-written joke.
I think Anthony doesn't give a fuck if you like him or not, though. That's what makes him almost. It's almost like this. It's almost like the reverse. It's like, boy, I hope he likes me. It's that kind of cadence and I think vibe that he gives off. He
Steve,
comes
how long
in
have you been
kinda-
doing this for?
I've been doing it for 21 years.
Every comic gives a fuck if they like you or not. Deep down, they all care.
Deep down, I think you want to be respected.
I
but
think the delivery's there. But
he's one of the genuine guys. I genuinely think he's so confident in his material.
Yes.
I just don't think he gives a fuck.
Yeah.
I really don't. And I've seen both sides. What do you think, Ken?
I know the name, but I couldn't tell you his bits. So
Got it.
I'm
Yep.
going to be like,
Okay.
when it starts, I'm going to be like, oh,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
him.
You'll know him when you see him.
My
yeah.
oldest
okay.
loves him.
He's like a younger Regan, actually, looking like right there. They
That
both got
looks
great
like
hair.
Regis Philbin right
Yeah.
there. doesn't it? that pause.
Now,
Oh, yeah.
my best friend's wife is a born-again Christian, and we do not get along at all. The other day, she called me up to yell at me, saying I'm a terrible influence on her husband because he called her a bad name. I said, what? Did he call you a bitch? She said, no, Anthony. He did not use the B word. I said, uh-oh. Did he call you a cunt? She said, no. I said, well, then he didn't hear it from me. Yeah, that's pretty much the greatest opening joke of all time.
Well, there we go. Jeselnik.
I do know Anthony Jeselnik. Yes, yes. And, I think it's hilarious. And when I'm watching him, there's comics like Anthony that so deftly weave their way through what you can say
Sure.
and what you can't, and how to push people's buttons of being uncomfortable.
Right.
That as a performer, I don't have that ability,
Right.
so I stay away from it. That kind of dark humor, knowing what you can get away joking about these days, because it's changing every day.
Yep.
As I was talking with my wife about David LaChapelle, the great photographer, David Chappelle, earlier, I was like, we have to watch the Netflix, show
Sure.
tonight, and we haven't seen it. So I'm kind of in awe of those guys who do this today and do it so well. and just have that inner barometer on what I can say and what I can and how I'm going to make you uncomfortable, you know,
Right.
despite these changing mores. I think it's hilarious.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on Jeselnik?
So this is like as soon as it came on.
On the bit, I should say.
Yeah, I know. As soon as it came on, like he did a lot of his warm-ups here, and that joke. As soon as he told it, I ran out of this club and called my brother and told him the joke. I think that joke is fantastic. And when we're talking about if you're going to be that dark and be that clever, he told a joke, used the C word, which is the bozo no, and you didn't even think about the C word. I'm saying that's where well scripted. That's where the genius comes through. You sit there. And we can go back and talk about Chappelle for a second. Like that joke, you heard the joke and you heard the nuance of it.
Sure.
Chappelle's special, all the community's up in an uproar, and they're not listening to what he's saying. If you listen to, I don't want to get too much into it, but Dave Chappelle's special is basically that America still doesn't care about black people.
Sure, yeah.
Right? And you lost the message in that because people get focused on the joke a little bit. That you didn't lose any. I mean, I know it's only one joke.
Yeah.
But you didn't lose any of the nuance of it. He used the as I said, the bozo no words, and you didn't even think about it. That's a great joke.
Yeah, it's a great joke. Like you said, it's his opening joke. But like I, as a performer and as a comic, I appreciate the joke. I respect the joke. I respect Jeselnik too. I think he's obviously an incredible joke writer. It just part of what turns me off about him at times is the self-congratulatory victory lap. Like, that's the greatest opening joke. You know, it's like there's always kind of this smugness that comes about via him, but that's also what makes him him. So it's
Can
his
we go back to
personality.
Joe for a second, though?
Yeah.
Because now you walk out there and he tells you the first joke, makes you laugh, and 100% sets up the rest of the character for the rest of the night.
Right, yeah.
Right? So when you get there, you like it or not, it's intensely him.
Yeah.
He sets up everything you want to know about him in the first joke.
Sure.
And that's when you see comedians tell funny jokes and once are clean or dirty, and here's one point of view, here's another reference point, and they're all over the place.
Right.
He sets up the humor and the character in the first minute of his act, and I think that's one of the things we're talking about as a comic.
Yeah.
Right, where we say funny, subjective, good's not. That's good.
You know what you're
Sure,
getting
yeah.
from the first.
from the minute you walk out
Like,
there.
okay, this guy's going to be super confident. And, you know, him saying that's the best opening joke ever is a joke in itself because you either are going to dig that confidence.
Exactly. Yeah.
and stuff.
And-
I think in the mosaic of stand-up comedy, he's a tile that stands out a little more because not everybody does what he does, and not everybody can execute as well as what he does.
And he's a handsome guy, too.
He's a good-looking
Look
dude.
at that. Again, another still.
Yeah.
You know, it's pretty
Castable.
It's a compelling shot. It's a compelling profile. The silhouette is amazing. You
And
know, part of what makes the joke acceptable is that he says, "Did he call you?"
Right.
You know, it's not
Yeah.
like him saying itself in first person.
Right.
So you
He's-
get away with like, "Did he call you?"
And that's the joke because he's saying, "Well, you didn't hear it from me."
didn't hear it from me.
Exactly. And I'm
And
saying
so-
it's a great joke.
It's a great
Yeah.
joke.
contorting the
It's
delivery.
Super smart.
What would you guys give this 1 out of 10?
I should probably recuse myself from this one because I mean, as soon as he told the joke, I ran out there and called my brother. So you know what I think.
So you go
know.
10 out of 10.
I
on
think
that
I
one?
think it's fantastic.
That's a great joke,
I
yeah.
love it.
I give it an 8.
Yeah.
Ooh,
I like
a
it.
notch
See- you
above
see what I've
Regan. See,
done?
now you set the bar.
Now you
Now
know
this
where
is
I'm
a very
going.
interesting scale. I will give this an 8.5. I will put it on par with Regan. Now, granted, I look, it's a great joke. By
But
far,
go
it's a
back
great
to
joke.
but also go back to what we were saying earlier. Not only a great joke, there's very few jokes that set up for the rest of the night what we're doing. It
tone.
sets up everything about his character.
Yeah.
That makes it even more impressive of a joke. Just
Yeah.
the joke. I mean, just everything you're gonna get. He sets up everything for the tone for the rest of the night because everything's that dark.
Yeah, if you're on Netflix,
Yeah.
you give it a minute, you're either in or you're out.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
So yeah, it's a sucker. He sucker punches you within the first. But if you don't know who he is, but those that do know who he is, that's exactly what you want as soon as you turn it on. So
I'm curious, like, have you seen early clips of him? Was it always the same persona? Was it always the same character?
Always. I said I know him. The first time I saw him, he opened up for Louis here. First time I saw him, and it was always that character
Really?
in the joke.
Have you? Are there some comics who you know their whole career, and you're like they started off as one guy, and then they at some point one joke and one night really killed, and then it changed their whole persona.
I think people discover their voice along the way, but he's somebody who is, I mean, that's who he is. We did a show together in L.A. a few months ago, and, you know, it's tag teams, so Jeselnik has to bring me up, and so I go up, and as Anthony's walking off, you do the courteous thing. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for Anthony Jeselnik. And as he's walking on, I'm like, not many people know this, but before every set, he goes down the Santa Monica Pier and he rides the merry-go-round 3 times before he get in the zone. And just nothing. Just fucking nothing. Deadpan. It's like, no, I don't need the cute shit. Let me just get the fuck up. You know, that's what you can tell. It's just like, all right, have a good night, Anthony. But I do think he is
Sebastian.
What's that?
Sebastian always had the words. He never had the animation in the beginning. So you see a transformation where,
Yeah.
I mean, he always was funny, always had a great show about him, but was never as animated 15 years ago as he is today.
Yes.
Because musicians do that all the time.
Yeah.
Like if you listen to old Tom Waits, I mean, it was a super clean singer-songwriter Jim Croce sound.
Right.
And then with one album, it turned to, I mean, it sounded like the Tom Waits, and it blew up. He won a Grammy and stuff. And so many musicians, they had a hit, and it was a certain thing. Sugar Ray, they were
Right.
they were a terrible new metal band, and they did Fly,
Right.
which was super lightweight, and that defined their sound from then on.
They became like pop punk after that. Yeah.
And you can say anything about Sugar Ray, and Mark McGrath would agree with you. So he's
Well, he's a hockey player, right? That's why I was kind of thought he was
Basketball
cool.
player.
Oh, really?
yeah, McGrath.
Because I
He
saw
may
him
have played some
in a video.
hockey.
He was playing hockey or something. I was like, oh,
He's a
hockey player.
he's a 5-tool guy.
Yeah.
And the hockey side and the music, we talked about Sebastian Bach, his brother, it's Zach Burke. That's her last name is Burke.
Oh,
And
really?
He was an NHL goalie. Zach Burke was an NHL goalie.
No way, really?
Yeah.
God bless the genes in that family. All right, here we go. Clip number 3. Who we got here? Oh, okay, here we go. Not much diversity on this episode, but going to hear from the black viewers. Jim Gaffigan, any thoughts on Mr. Gaffigan?
Look, I've been a fan of Gaffigan for a long time.
Yeah.
I've been loving his. I think you're getting older when your favorite TV show is CBS Sunday Morning.
Yeah,
I saw
that.
I've got a but we have a little a text chain
Right.
where we send photos, me and about 5 guys, of our feet, in our different slippers or Crocs or whatever,
Right.
crossed watching CBS Sunday
CBS
Morning
Sunday
every Sunday morning. Like I'm so in them.
Yeah.
And Gaffigan's has an ongoing piece on CBS Sunday Morning where he's during the pandemic he was just talking about the trials and tribulations with a family life in a 2-bedroom
all of his
apartment in New York.
kids, Jesus.
And he's just so funny and insightful and just simple observations. I dig his humor a lot.
He's great.
So what you're talking about earlier, I think the genius is Gaffigan is right. There's very few things you can do as a family where the kids will enjoy it and the adults will enjoy it. And you get him on different levels. He's like Bugs Bunny in a cartoon where the adults got it on one level, the kids get it on another, and that's Jim. Where you can take your whole entire family and everyone enjoy the evening. And very few people can do that.
Yeah, he's like the Pixar of comedy, I guess, where everybody can come. But what I like about him is that when I was coming up in New York, one of my favorites to watch as a young comic looking up at, if I'm a freshman, Burr's a sophomore, Jim Norton is a junior in high school, I always loved, Norton and I have nothing in common, right? But his raw honesty to be blunt about trannies and, his attractions to things and all this other shit. I was like, God damn it. I like the disgusting shit he's into, but he's so honest about it. I was like, wow, I really respect that. Burr was somebody else that I always appreciated when we were coming up because I was like, everything he's saying is genuine. It's from the heart. It's inside his soul, and he needs to get this out. He's being so blunt with the audience. And Gaffigan is the same way. It's just a different subject matter. He loves food. And I think everybody, especially in this country, can relate to that, We're a gluttonous nation, and I think once you started getting on that food train, it was just like, it's fucking off to the races. Hot Pockets is one of those iconic hits.
Hot Pockets.
You just can't stop. It's like a one-hit wonder. So let's watch little Gaffigan here.
I do sometimes lie up here. I'm not proud of it. But sometimes we all have to lie. Like, even when I tell my children not to lie, I'm kind of lying to them. Some people are like, you should never lie to a child. And those people don't have kids. Because when you have kids, you lie to them all the time. You're like, you wouldn't like this ice cream. It's very spicy. I'd share, but Santa said I can't. Now, why don't you go to sleep so I can wrestle your mom? I'm not encouraging lying. I'm just saying there are times when you need to, right? Like if you're late to meet someone and you see that they're already angry and you don't have an excuse, you have to lie. Because if you told that person the truth, they would never speak to you again. You're gonna be like, hey, I gotta come clean, I just couldn't motivate to get going. I mean, eventually I could. What I'm trying to say is I don't value your time. I've identified there are 2 times when it's socially acceptable to lie. To spare someone's feelings, it's okay to lie. It's also okay to lie to cover up a murder. Allow me to explain. When we discover someone's a murderer, we also learn they've done some fibbing. But we tend to focus on the murder part. You never hear, I'm angry he killed that guy, but frankly, I'm more upset about the lying. It's the dishonesty that bothers me. Some trust has been broken.
Okay. Any thoughts on Gaffigan on that bit there?
I love that. I
Yeah.
love that bit. And what's so great about Jim Gaffigan is how he takes a joke about it's okay to lie.
Yeah.
And then within it folds all these other jokes inside it, you know? And,
Yeah.
he just cracks me up.
Yeah.
You know, his humor's so on point with me, and I relate to it. And it's clean, you know? Yeah, I'm a big Gaffigan fan.
Yeah, same. How about you, buddy?
Well, that's the same thing we're talking about, right? In terms of, hey, the adults get on one level, the kids get on another level,
Yeah.
right? That joke is written for that.
Go wrestle your mom.
Exactly.
It's like,
That's it. Exactly.
So you got
great
that,
line.
and you don't see it inside there. We talk about uniqueness of delivery.
Yeah.
His voice.
Oh yeah,
Right.
yeah.
So and it's a style unique to Jim, and that really I think all that's the greats, which is why he, you know, whether no matter what it is. If you like him or don't like him or whatever it is, when you see someone sell that many tickets
Right.
for so long, I don't care what, if it's music or anything, you're great. You're
Yeah.
great at what you
Yeah.
do, and Jim is great at what he does. There's just
Very
no
great.
there's just no question about
Well,
that.
this is the fun in seeing Jeselnik, Regan, and Gaffigan is you realize Jeselnik has one gear. That's it. You're going to get one gear out of him. This is a dry delivery. It's the whole run. He's not going to get animated. And then you see Regan and Gaffigan, and they have these dumb guy voices that
Yeah.
they can shift into and parlay the bit into this conduit that's a lot of fun. Brian goes in this dumb guy, and then Gaffigan, kind of the snarky, fun, high-pitched voice guy that's just focused on eating. It's just great. So I think there's such a disparity in delivery from these guys that I appreciated seeing. And Gaffigan and Regan are pretty similar, I guess, in the regard of being older, clean, white guys that, again, I think rely sometimes on the voice to
Right.
deliver the message.
Well, I think when you talk about it, right, no one just goes music. People just go comedy. And
Right.
there's different genres of comedy, right? Like, when, you know, you're completely different, right? Josh
Yeah.
is completely different. You know, we look
Sure.
at that. Nate's completely different, right? Anthony's completely different. And it's
Those are
not
very
ju-
different tax brackets as
yeah,
well.
it-
Yes.
it's the same thing as right, but there's also jazz or heavy metal.
Sure, of course.
or
Would you be
jam
jazz?
band.
Would you be jazz while Gaffigan is pop?
I'm Dick Van Dyke. I got the kazoo, I got the trumpet, I got the fucking thing. I'm like, can anybody pay attention? Throw a dollar in the fucking bucket, assholes. That's me, yeah.
So you're like New Orleans jazz, like the Mardi Gras, you're like the Mardi Gras parade.
Just everything stuck to the wall. It's like, yeah, but I agree. I think, you know, one of the things I've worked on the last few years is crowd work, because I
Right.
just wanted to see how far I could go, and then crowd work at the end of the day does expand my writing when I actually sit down and write a bit. So I'm like, no, I can go there because I've gone there with the
Yeah.
crowd work, and crowd work is a specific muscle. I'm not good at roasting.
Right.
I've tried it. I've gone and judged roast battle with Jeff Ross and stuff, and it's a completely different muscle. And there's people that are great at roasting, people that are great at this, great at one-liners, great at, you know, storytelling. Bert Kreischer's an amazing storyteller. Is he a great stand-up comic? I think he's an incredible performer. I think he's an incredible storyteller that's very funny. But, you know, again, there's variations of what comedy is, right? So I would say that is Bert Kreischer a great comic? Yeah, he's a great comic in regard to what it is. He's niche, you know.
But also, if you listen to Bert, though, I know he has a persona and he's a fantastic marketer, and I with him so much. I see the shows all the time.
Yeah.
But the bits are relatable. He's he's really, you don't
He's
think
an
that
everyman,
He's
yeah.
talking about, more times than not, he's talking about family, interaction, being a dad,
Yes.
being a husband.
Him being a dipshit.
Yeah, all that.
Yeah.
And how I, maneuver all that. So that it's a multifaceted character.
Yes.
Right? And so it's almost more like Norm a little bit, because Bert's anything. I mean, he works as hard, and
Oh, yeah.
I don't want to give away the stupid. He works his ass off.
Yes.
So, but he comes off as the buffoon, but he's anything but the buffoon.
Completely, yeah.
Right. And so that's the part where the genius there is. It comes off as this party animal, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, he's a drinker. Yeah, all those things they're all true, but they're really relatable because he tells you.
Oh, they're true. They're true.
No, they're true. Yeah, but you know what I'm saying? I think
Yeah.
that's the part where you're looking at the multifaceted, and I think all comedy, to get somewhere, you have to relate to it and you have to make it absurd,
Yes.
and that's what he does.
Okay, 1 out of 10. What do you give this Gaffigan clip?
It's the only one I probably can't give it a 10 because I don't think that's the best representation of Jim.
Yeah.
Because we were talking about the voices, everything wasn't there, but it's still great. I can't get any less than a 9 though.
9, okay.
Yeah,
And how about you, Griff?
I'm going for a 9.
Yeah.
Whoa, okay,
I'm going
that's
for
the
a
one.
9.
Yeah.
Now, so let me ask.
Yes.
Of the comments that we've seen, Gaffigan's the biggest draw. Is he the biggest draw?
I'd say Gaffigan and Regan are.
who-
Jim. Jim does arenas.
Yeah.
Jim does arenas, like
Jim-
Bill
Jim-
Burr's going to do.
Yeah,
you
but,
know.
Sure, yeah.
but there might be Sebastian. I think maybe the only person I can think of that sells more tickets from coast to coast, and like in every market other than Jim,
Right.
maybe Dunham. I mean,
Well, I mean,
you got
Chappelle
you got Chappelle or
is
Kevin.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, Chappelle's the guy. I was talking to somebody the other day where they were talking to an exec or the head of Live Nation saying Chappelle's the one act that could announce at 8 in the morning, I'm doing the arena tonight, and
Yeah.
probably sell it out.
How is that?
And it's
And
crazy.
Joe.
So
And
the
Rogan,
so the
too.
Rogan
Yeah.
Chappelle tag team did. Well.
Oh my God,
Yeah,
that's
but Chappelle,
just crushed.
Chappelle also did it with Jon Stewart too.
yeah.
Yeah,
It's-
Let me ask you guys something. When you start off speaking as a musician, when you start off as a musician, you tend to like. You only like.
no, there's no girls around.
Right.
Like you guys. Is that the question?
That's right,
No.
yes.
So congratulations, you guys. Fuck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You
Way more. I say more. Way more Rufinol in
start
comedy
off-
than in music.
You start off thinking that what qualifies as worthy and cool. Like, man, I only like Radiohead and this, and if it's pop and super successful, then it's a sellout and it's not any
Sure.
good. Then you go through your career and you see a lot of acts fall away, and now they're selling real estate. They're not doing it.
Yep.
And then the acts that you. At the end of the day, the arbiter of cool and worthy is success and longevity.
Yes.
And Gaffigan strikes me as that guy who. I'm. The question for you guys in the comedy world, is it the same in comedy? That there's probably a lot of people, I'm guessing, more edgy comics who might slag the Jim.
Oh, for sure.
The guys
There's-
like Jim Gaffigan, but like, hey brother, Jim's laughing all over the bank.
For years it was the alternative comedy scene
Right.
that looked down on everybody. So the alt scene would shit on Larry the Cable Guy. The alt scene would shit on Carrot Top. And there was definitely a chain stroking
I'll
element
say
to all
that.
this.
Carrot Top, top 5 of all times.
One of the
And Dan Whitney's one of the great joke writers of all times.
Carrot Top, people shit on that guy. I'm telling you, I went to his show and I bowled over. I was in tears at 2 bits he had. I was like, it was almost to the point where it's like, if he does that thing again, I'm gonna
Right.
piss my pants. Like, mercy. I was bowled over,
Yeah.
and very rarely have I been to that point. And on top of that,
And
one
he-
of the nicest guys.
Oh, he's one of the greats.
One of
But
the
he
nicest guys in
also
comedy.
is constantly writing.
For years, I felt that there was the alternative comedy sense from the executives all
Right.
across the industry, right? Oh, well, yeah, he's bread and butter. Gabriel Iglesias is Midwest. Jeff Dunham's Midwest, so we're not going to give them a show. Let's focus on, like, for example, someone like Dimitri Martin. Now, I'm
Right.
not shitting on Dimitri Martin. I have in the past, and I apologize to him in person because I love the guy, and I generally think he's creative. But he's an example of, like, him, Birbiglia. There were all these guys kind of in the alt scene in New York City, getting all the deals, getting all the opportunities and everything else, and kind of overlooking everybody. I think eventually that kind of shifted because now you're seeing the entertainment world is so fractured. They're really going after people that have enormous social media followings and that could sell tickets and draw eyeballs. Because back in the day, they weren't concerned with drawing eyeballs because it's Comedy Central. People are going to watch. So we're going to put on some really eccentric, distinct voices in comedy, as opposed to now it's like, no, I need Bert Kreischer to come here and help draw eyeballs to this part of the platform.
Yeah, but I'm going to take it a different direction because that's where
But I was right.
You're 100% right.
Right.
But there's no question. Steve is right. Actually,
Is that the name of the podcast?
Actually,
Steve is right.
Actually, what we do.
That's right.
We
And if
should
I'm
have
wrong,
is
you have to leave.
WWSD. What would Steve do? That's the bracelet I'm going to put on here.
Yeah,
but
that's what you want.
I think I say this to everybody. If they ask me like I think this is the golden age of comedy.
Yeah.
Because I don't think the executives knew funny if it bit him in the ass. Right? They didn't I mean, you can say whatever you want about Larry the Cable
But that's why
Guy.
they're looking at social media followers to go, oh, 2 million followers. They must be great.
Well, I'm going to say that. I'm going to say so. That's why I think comedy is the best it's ever been. Is you needed a third party to validate you before, whether it was Carson or Letterman or a local radio guy or whatever it was. Okay. Now today, all I need is this podcast. If people enjoy it, a YouTube, you can find the fans. So who are they to say that it's funny?
Sure.
Right? I mean, just because you don't like it, if you can, all you have to do is find your audience, right? So there was a delivery system of radio before. You still needed radio to become an act, right? To get any type of draw, and you needed executives.
But same for them.
Radio. It's the same way with us, with streams, with TikTok, with Instagram, all the different types of social media. You have instant validation whether something's working or not.
Right.
But back in the day, weren't the record companies buying off the DJs and big producers, getting them coke, and we'll give you a signed guitar?
And gatekeepers, of the arbiters of what was cool and what was worthy and not, and now you have that middleman, and all that has been cut out. And now labels and stuff are just banks, and they want to mitigate the risk they take when they sign an artist. And now with the numbers that you can do, you can go straight to the public as a musician, and the same with comedians. And under so much need for content, they're going to go after names that can draw people.
Yeah, 100%. But to your point about even Comedy Central, they never even understood what they had. They went after that alternative brand and said, "This is what we are."
Yeah.
Well, at the time, their largest rated comedy special of all times was Blue Collar.
Oh, Blue Collar, of course, yeah.
Right, but that's not their demographic.
Sure.
And then their next one after that was Jeff Dunham.
Yeah.
And they're not our demographic, but that's your demographic. And you understand it. New York and LA, Chicago are population bases.
Yeah.
If you want to watch the election and watch what's happening in America and all that kind of stuff, the rest of the world is rural.
Yeah.
Go even in New York City, go upstate, whatever, and it's relatability. Whether it's anything or not, Dan Whitney, who's Larry the Cable Guy, is one of the most simple joke writers of all time.
Sure.
And when it broke out, we were selling 20,000 seats a night.
Yeah.
Or over a weekend in a market at least. And it's a simple fart joke or dick joke or whatever it is. It's funny, well written, and it's just silly and funny.
Yeah.
And it went coast to coast, where a lot of the alternative just plays in the population basis.
Yeah, of course. That's always been the case. I mean, you look at guys like the Impractical Jokers. These guys are selling out arenas.
Everywhere.
Are they on the
Everywhere.
cover of Vanity Fair or Vogue or Hollywood Reporter or Variety? Never. But they literally have kept True TV on the air for the last 10 years, and they've made so much money off of those guys. And nobody's really, I think there are pockets of respect, but the industry as a whole, it's like, guys, what does it take? I mean, they had a movie come out and they couldn't get on a late night talk show.
Right.
It's fucking crazy.
And generations, same thing. Kids and adults love that show. Like, I watch it with my kids, and I know the guys, I love the guys, and they still make me laugh. And
They're fucking great, yeah.
It makes you uncomfortable at times what they're doing.
Yeah.
It's funny. They're having fun up there. But my point being is every executive goes, this is stupid. They
100%,
take themselves, and that's what I'm saying. Most of them don't know funny if it bit them in the ass.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, this is our last clip. Normally, we have at least another comic on the show, so I would be safe from this. Look, I have a lot of awful bits that I'm not younger, sold with energy. I'm working on my act the last 5 years.
Don't.
Here we go. This is like typical of like, hey, what do you think about, Greg, he's a great guy. He's
Good
really
guy.
nice. He's a great family. And there's a butt coming. So
Yeah.
here's the butt. This is going to be the bit. Okay, it's Steve Byrne. Here we go. Let's watch this fucking bit. Jesus
So
Christ.
this is
love-
a very hot show.
Oh,
It's
no.
a hot show. I'm gonna go home after hot
I know
show
this
like this
one.
and give
I don't
myself
like
a
it.
treat.
I hate this
A
bit.
reward. What would that be? Well, I'll tell you, camera. A bowl of macaroni and cheese. Yes. I love it. My favorite part of the meal, not even eating it, preparing it. Do this the next time you bowl. Take a spoon, dip it in your pasta, stir it. Here's the trick. Don't eat it. Listen. You'll appreciate it that much more when you do. Eat it. Tease yourself. Take a spoon, just dip it in. Ooh. I gotta stop. I get very hungry when I hear that. I think everybody likes macaroni and cheese. I'll tell you who loves it. My next door neighbor in my apartment building. This woman, she had a bowl the other night at 1 a.m. for an hour and 17 god-awful minutes. I know, because I had my ear up against the wall. And all night long, all I hear. So good. Eat it. I ran next door. I was like, "Hey, don't eat so fast. You're gonna choke."
Okay. Can we stop this, please? Jesus Christ.
10. It's a 10. It's a 10.
You know why it has to be a 10?
It has to be.
Because for one,
This
for
will
one
never
reason,
air if
no,
it's not a 10.
because
I know that.
no, because we had 3 white guys before this. Now we have some racial diversity here on this thing. It's what we
Thank
need on the
God, we
program.
were all
So
gonna be
now
canceled.
now we're piling on.
Collective
if,
sigh of relief.
If we don't give Steve,
Oh, for fuck's sakes.
Well, I want to know, what year was this? 'Cause
Well,
you just
first
said-
off, horrible haircut, ill-fitting suit. I had bad representation, obviously, at the time to let me go out on stage
boy, I'm
like
gonna say,
that.
this has always been fun watching a comedian dissect their
Uh,
own bits.
this
This
is-
is the self-loathing stuff that
Oh,
you're gonna learn
God.
so much about a comedian right now. He has his own special, which most people don't have. At the time he got his special, not everybody
That's
got
true.
it. And then you're gonna sit there and just blow shit on yourself the entire time.
Yeah,
this is gonna be
that's-
fun for me. You
but-
go ahead. I want to hear. I want to hear you talk about this.
This is one of those bits, though. I think when you're younger, you're a lot more immature. You're trying to get laid after the show. You're doing these bits, and that I got a lot of mileage out of that joke. And that was a joke we used to do to a kid we were in college with who was a virgin, and
Right.
we'd always stir mac and cheese in front of him and goes, what does that sound like, Jason? What does it sound like? And Jason's like, oh, no, you guys stop fucking around. So I turned it into this bit, and I think this was my closing bit. And what's horrible about this is my mom loves this bit, and I don't think she even knows what it's about. I'm like, Mom, I go, of all the bits you like, she's like, the mac and cheese. I'm like, oh, God, no.
You don't think she gets a part of what you're listening to?
No, she doesn't get it, and I don't want to explain it to her either.
Right.
It's like, am I going to tell my mom what it's really?
Surprise you. But I've seen.
Do you think your mom eats macaroni and cheese for
on your
an hour
Instagram.
and 17?
You may be right.
That's right. Yeah.
She's a sweetheart.
She doesn't know. She has no idea, and I'm not gonna tell her there's no Santa Claus. So it's painful to watch yourself. It's painful to watch something that's probably a 20-year-old bit. But I think this is the difference between music and comedy. Is music, for some reason, I've always thought of it this way, sometimes the best tunes come to you in youth. And then I think comics, it takes so long to develop your voice that I feel like it was only until the last 2 years I clicked into like the best version of myself as a comedian.
Right.
The other stuff prior to, I was like, that could be better. And I look back on some of the stuff, I'm like, it's fucking awful. Like this shit, I would be like, why would you ever do that? But at the time, it was a crutch that got me to the next thing, that got me here eventually, right? But I think it takes a long time to be a great comic. And I think sometimes with bands, out of the gates, I don't know, for some reason, you just click on all cylinders and build off of that first album. Is there some correlation there, or am I way off?
There are a few bands that come out perfectly formed.
Yeah.
And that first album, it sounds so great. It's timeless. It's perfect, like the Killers' first album.
Hot Fuss, yeah.
There's certain bands that happens to. Most bands, though, are like, better than Ezra. When I listen to those first albums, I'm like, oh, it was so poorly recorded. And
Really?
the tempo is changing. that's what you think of when you first hear it. And you want to make excuses like, oh, God, you know,
Yeah.
Sonically it's not where the next albums were. But then you get, but without fail, good, you know, for Better Than Ezra on that first
Sure.
album, so poorly recorded. If you listen to it, you A/B it next to other stuff, it doesn't sound nearly as good. But then you just get an appreciation for people loved it. It was simple, you know, and you know, then if you have staying power in the business, you understand the power of simplicity.
Right.
And in music, the best example of that was Tom Petty. Tom Petty, because as you get older and you learn more chords and you don't want to repeat yourself, you want to get more complicated, and at times change. And we had strings here and amazing production and stuff. And without fail, your fans go, yeah, I know there's that song that costs you tons of money with, you know, the string section in Capitol Studio C in LA.
Right.
But I love that song about the cow you wrote, you know, that's 2 minutes
Right.
long. So I'm always going back to listening to, as you know, making new music. Like, don't forget, a simple song has so much power, and it's hard the longer you do it. So I'm guessing, you know, when you listen to that, you hear your old go-to, the things you did at first to get
Right.
a laugh, those the old devices.
Yeah.
And maybe it seems sophomoric to you, you know, compared to the more elevated, you know, and comic we see today, and we
Right.
share, you know, but that's still fucking funny.
Well, it's
You
funny
know.
when you
Still
talk,
wear the
it's
same
like,
suit.
oh, that suit! I want to burn that fucking suit.
Just a little tight.
I could drop that off at Goodwill and they'd be like, nah. It's funny because you mentioned that.
You
'Cause-
can cut that. Edit all that out.
no, November Rain is like an example, I think, of what you're talking about.
You
like,
went straight to Guns N' Roses.
I hear November Rain. I'm like, I never liked that. It was like too much.
Agreed.
It was like, why? How much coke have you done to get here? Where it's just like, just play, you know, Paradise City
Welcome
or
to the jungle.
Welcome to the Jungle.
But there's also,
Patience.
to your point,
It's one of
though-
my favorite songs by them, and it's just an acoustic. Right?
Yeah, but to your point though, when you're saying it does take a comedian minimum 10 years to get their voice, but you start in your 20s. A musician
Yeah.
starts when they're 10 years old, 11 years
Yeah.
old, 12 years old,
That's
they're
true.
25.
You get
that 10,000 hours.
Something I never thought about,
So,
yeah.
so you put that in there younger, right? So
That's right, yeah.
there's a time there, and then also
you're smart.
No, but I'm just saying, but also as a comic, right? Well, there's a difference, right? Then when you get to a musician, they basically what got you there is all they want to hear.
Right.
Right, and I just saw the Stones, and they played some great new tunes, but just play the hits.
Yeah.
As a comedian, you've already heard it. Once you give it away, you have to do new stuff.
You got it, yeah.
So there's a big contrast right there of what the expectation of the audience is.
Sure, yeah. Yeah, well, what would you grade this? 1 out of 10, gentlemen. Be blunt. I don't care. I will start off the scoring myself, so I will set the bar for you and take some pressure off you. I'll give this a 4 out of 10. Okay, a 4 out of 10. I'm not at the. I could go through whatever. I fucking hate myself. What do you guys give it?
Well, with the pressure, with the pressure nowadays and the kung flu and all that kind of stuff, I gotta give you and your people a 10 out of 10, Steve.
Oh, because if you gave it anything less, it's considered a hate crime these days. Yes.
To not get canceled in
Yeah.
2021 and to show my appreciation for being on the show, but not seem like a brown nose or
Right.
an ass kisser, I'm giving it a 9.5.
Ooh.
But I will say something that's really
Ooh.
important that you said
Yeah.
though. Jim was a later bit. Regan a later bit.
Sure.
Right? All that kind of stuff. You're also showing your early bits. So if you showed Jim 20 years ago before hitting, you would not be the same Jim Gaffigan.
God, you're smart.
So I'm just saying, but you showed a bit that's
why I love it.
but that's not the best. That's not the same thing I said about Jim.
Yeah,
that's not
yeah.
the best version of you.
Exactly.
Right.
yeah.
I mean, so if you did something way earlier before Brian was ready, when Brian had his first special, he was still the #1 act in the comedy clubs.
Sure, yeah.
Right.
Let me. So you brought up a great point. You as a comedian, you can't play the hits.
No.
You know, you can't. I mean, maybe there are a few that had some joke
Every
they
now
would
and
go
then you
back,
could.
but that's the exception.
Yeah.
As a musician, man, when I see those hits in the set list, I'm just like, because
Yeah.
I know that I could string a set together with the hits, peppered throughout the set. You can't do that. So, as a musician, you're always asking yourself, God, am I still writing good songs? I know I can still play the hits. As a comedian, it must just be this nagging question in your head: am I still
What
good?
next?
What next?
Yeah, because I think they're paying to see they're paying to see a representation of you. They want the best
Right.
representation of you. Now, when you go to see Chris Rock, you know he's going to talk about societal comments and, comment on society. Chappelle is going to get deep thinking on maybe race or whatever. And you go see Gabriel Iglesias, like he's going to talk about burritos and cake and fucking food, and it's going to be partying, he's going to be jovial. So you're paying to see a representation of that individual, as opposed to, I'm coming here to hear that bit.
Right.
Every now and then you'll get someone like Kreischer who they want to hear the Machine
He did it
story.
for 20
and he's
years.
like, okay,
Right.
I'll do it.
But he does it in a way now. But so that's one of the, I think, conversely, when we're talking about how comedy has been, I think the gold, we're in the gold standard of it right now because you have that part of it. When I got into it 30 years ago, and even before that, right, there was no outlet.
Right.
So you could play those bits for longer. Forever. Now there's an expectation, and you see a pressure of when you see the guys, and I think it probably started with Louis, right? I'm going to do a special, retire it, come back out there with another, work in the clubs, and then another hour. And now you see Bill, and then you see Nate, and all those guys that said, how much material can I pump out there?
Yeah.
And then it has to build on itself, and there's a whole other expectation. How am I going to build a new hour every year, put it out there that's as good as it was before?
Yeah, exactly.
And that's hard.
But for you guys, and I know we're going a little long in the tooth, but this has been fucking fun. I think this is our longest one, but I think it's been one of the, I don't know, we've done 3, but this has been fucking awesome.
This is the A-team.
You
You got the Lorne Michaels of Nashville.
That's right.
You got a 90s superstar, let's be honest, and look at you.
Pard, and I'll be Mr. T. What are you going to be?
So I do want to ask you, though, how much pressure is there, obviously, when you go out on the road, they want to hear the hits, but is there that thing of like, no, but let me introduce you to this new one, because I'm really proud of it. I think you guys will like this one. And I mean, how much pressure is there as an artist to do that?
You always you want to play new stuff, and you want to get that feedback that the new stuff is good, you know, and people dig it. But unless you're a fool, you've got to sandwich it between some hits.
Yeah.
And then you just say, listen, we're gonna do it. We're gonna do a new one. If you want to go to the bathroom, now is the time.
Yeah, you're very honest. You got a great sense of humor.
I was like,
at your shows.
listen. If I go see the Stones, it's amazing you brought them up. It's like, I don't even want to hear a new Rolling Stones song. That said, we're about to play a new song, but I lower the bar. Like, there's a song we've been playing. So there's a new song we've been playing. It's about 2 years old, but we've just started playing it live. We've rehearsed it very well. We really, really like the song. But every time on this tour for the past 6 weeks I've been on, I say, hey guys, listen, we were up late last night, and we're a little punch drunk, but it's a little bit fuzzy, but I had this tune. So we haven't played it. We're gonna fuck it up.
You get 'em
but
on board.
Are you guys cool if we do this song?
Yeah.
Warts and all, and they're like, yeah. And then we play it, and then they love it because it sounds great. It makes us look really smart. And wow, you just learned this.
Yeah.
It sounded awesome. That's my insecurity, but it's also a device that works to.
Sure.
And
That's great.
and that's a couple differences. I think the huge difference between comedy and music, right, is musicians you can still rehearse in a garage.
Oh yeah.
Right? A comedian has to rehearse on that stage. So some of those jokes are just so new, and you throw them out. I mean, you're putting your flaws out there every day to see if it's even good.
Exactly.
You know by the time
I know.
it got there if it's good or not.
Yeah, but as I bring the song to the band, so I know that my instant barometer is my band. Does the band like it? Do your kids? Do the wives like it?
Oh, you
And
check it out
then-
on your kids?
Oh yeah, they'll hear a song.
Yeah.
They just can't help to. I'm playing it all the time. Then you go to the crowd, or management. Do they like it? You guys go out there.
That first joke is out there. They could have just wrote it that day.
Yeah.
Right?
Like, for
And
example,
you
like
discard it, and you make a joke of it, like, well, that will not be tomorrow night.
good when you write that song, are you like, oh fuck, this is great, and the reception you're getting from your friends, or was it one of those where you're just like, let's see what happens?
It's just like, see what happens. You think, I don't know, I'm sure it's with comedians, for the most part, you think every joke's pretty great. Or you would never say it.
There have been jokes I thought, this is the greatest thing I've ever written, and it's tanked. And there's
It's
jokes
tanked.
I'm like, this is fucking, let's just see if this works.
Well,
and then a
it's a
3-minute
comic
bit
mind.
evolves from it.
Same
so
with,
I just
same
never
with
know.
music.
Yeah.
You just don't know. And I envy those musicians like Paul McCartney, that when they write a song, that inner, critic,
Right.
and it says it's good, everybody loves it. For most musicians, that voice isn't telling you it's a good song is very it's hit or miss.
Wow.
And every once in a while, one reacts.
Well, that's I mean, I went to. It was a Beatle, right? You had to
Yeah.
see McCartney.
Yeah.
I'm like, all right, fine.
Yeah.
You're gonna hear the soundtrack of your life. He's so present. He's such a great performer. He's as good. I mean, he is the gold standard.
He's the gold
and
standard.
and he still is. And it's not because of just the songs are as a performer.
Yeah.
Guy's been doing it forever, and he's still one of the most present performers I've seen.
Present,
on stage.
just gracious, hits all the notes, hasn't lowered the key to
No,
any
it's
song.
unbelievable. Yeah.
Really, so that's something you would notice that I never would. So you could lower this scale, I assume, to
most every musician
'Cause you
you
lose
see out
strength?
there on the road lowers. You know, I did. I mean, we did a live album, and I heard that when we were doing, you know, the post and it was a DVD, I was like, oh my God, I'm singing everything flat, just barely flat. And then around the same time, I went and saw U2, and I heard that U2 was lowering everything by a half step, just by one fret.
Right.
You know, and so I was like, if Bono can do it, then I can do it. Then I just learned, since this was 15 years ago,
right.
that everybody lowers their key. Now, you can do it to a fault. Elton John, you know, singing Rocket Man, you know, it's super low now. I mean, he doesn't hit any of the notes, but there are certain exceptions like McCartney. You know,
I went and saw
who hit-
Elton John on his last tour, and crying, literally
Oh, yeah.
tears in my face, like, oh my God, he's never going to sing these again. I've heard these songs 1,000 times. I'm seeing the man that put melody to Bernie's lyrics, I guess, or whatever, that team, and I was seeing Rocket Man. I'm crying. I'm like, this is so beautiful. And then 2 days later, an article came out that he shit his pants twice, and he wears diapers on stage. And I was like, fuck, man, it just ruined everything. Like,
Whoa,
Like he's just
whoa.
never-
Well, how about that
Elton John
that should go
shits
the
his
other
pants.
way. Think about it. He's playing the songs of his life and shitting his pants.
I
That's
know.
fantastic.
That's a multitasker.
That's fantastic. You're looking
Hey,
at it the wrong way.
Wait, would you really? I've never heard that story.
what's that?
That Elton John shits his pants on
He wears diapers. It
because
came
when
out
he
that
hits the notes.
He was in Vegas, and I guess he publicly acknowledged that. And by the way, he had a spit bucket, and he kept turning around spitting. I guess he was sick or something.
So
but
he's a
He wears
spitter.
diapers. Yeah.
But
Now we know.
just-
Yeah.
Not as
That
a
was the hard-hitting question
not,
right there.
not as a rule though. He shits
Yeah.
his pants when he sings.
I don't think it's
Well,
as
it
a
has
rule,
to be if
but
he's wearing diapers. I think it's the
Well,
rule.
he's the brown dirt cowboy.
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
He
that
is
was
the
his,
brown
that was.
dirt
I mean, he
cowboy.
said it in the '70s, so it's
Absolutely.
nothing new.
No.
this is my last question
You just
because
follow
I do
through.
know we got to wrap. But I want to ask you, why is it some bands? I don't know if you guys are guilty of this. When it comes to a hit, you just speed through it. It sounds like I've heard live versions of songs I love, and I'm like, it's so fast. And then you hear like the actual version of it, you're like, oh my God, it's so much slower.
Well,
especially a
there's
rock-
some
it's
bands
just-
that are too cool for school. They think, oh, we're much more than this one song. You know,
So let's
like I
blaze
love
through
I
it?
love I love Counting Crows. Adam Duritz is famous for you know looking down on Mr. Jones.
Yep.
You know, but
Really?
now he plays it. You know, so some bands have like Radiohead for the longest time wouldn't play Creep. Now, but then you come full circle. Then you're
Yeah.
like, thank God for that song. You know. So that's the main reason people speed through it. Like, you want to hear it, and you bought the ticket, yeah. But now listen to this, opera
Right.
we've done. But most bands play songs live faster. When you are writing a song,
Right.
you write it slower because you're figuring out the parts, and in the studio, you really try to you say, what do you think is the best tempo for this? And you kind of feel it out without fail. When you start playing it live, and everybody really knows their parts, you're much more comfortable, and you always go, why did we record
so it's
this?
a band
Why did
thing.
we
It's a
record?
band thing more than
That's
a
We
interesting.
recorded this
Yeah.
song way too slow, and then it gets crazy if your drummer doesn't have a good sense of time. Then it gets just out of control. The Police were famous for Stuart Copeland speeding things way too fast.
Right.
But for the most part, the reason some bands speed through those hits is because they have a disdain for it, and they just got to check that box.
Did you-
It's their mac and cheese.
It's their mac and cheese.
I'm gonna burn that monitor.
Do you
You
remember-
just
Okay.
wrapped it up.
That's
God,
it.
you're a pro.
He's a genius.
Call back. I do want to thank you guys so much for being here today. This has been
This is
by
great.
far and away one of my favorite ones we've done. Now, granted, we've done 3, but this was so fun. It was great to get your perspective because you've
Right.
seen everybody. Great to get your perspective because
'Cause I've
you're a
rocked
performer as well,
everybody.
and you're a rock star. And you know what it's like to touch
Somewhat.
girls after shows. Whereas we go to Denny's and like, oh, what's it like to be with women. This is cool. But Kevin's got an incredible solo album.
Oh,
so
thank you.
Go down the
Yeah.
rabbit hole on Better Than Ezra, but get his solo album. It came out, I believe, 2 years ago. Is that correct?
2019, yes.
2019. I
yes.
listen to it all the time on the road. There's songs in my playlist. And, of course, if you make it to Nashville, you got to come out to Zanies. It's literally been a beacon for all the comics that have moved here. Thank you guys for checking out Comedy Pinata. Any closing thoughts, gentlemen, at all? I'll give the floor to you guys.
Listen, keep your chin up.
Okay.
Don't quit.
Yeah.
Keep swinging. It's going to happen.
Yeah,
It's going to happen. Listen, you're at a 9.5 and 10 is on your horizon.
Fuck yeah. All right.
Thank you, Steve. Always fun. Bye, buddy.